looks like Canada is ready for the fight against Donald Trump and the United States of America. It's not a fight that Canada wants, but it is a fight that Canada is ready for. Now, this follows Donald Trump's erratic and unhinged speech at Davos, the World Economic Forum. Trump appeared virtually. He talked about punishing Canada. He threatened to annex Canada at this international speech and said that none of the pain that he wants to inflict on Canada will happen if Canada becomes the 51st state.
All right, folks. Welcome to Politics Uncut. We are unpacking Trump's unhinged rant at the World Economic Forum. He is threatening to slap tariffs on Canada. So here's the deal. Trump gave a speech at the World Economic Forum claiming the US doesn't need Canada's oil, lumber, or cars, and suggested they should just become the 51st state. Canadian leaders, including Trudeau, are pushing back hard and they are not holding back. This is shaping up to be a showdown between erratic threats and strategic responses. Let's cut into the cave.
But he said otherwise he will be imposing massive economic measures against Canada. So let's take a look at what's going on in Canada. Prime Minister Trudeau says, look, it's not the way we want to go, but we are ready for it. Here's Prime Minister Trudeau. Let's play it.
Of course, if the president does choose to proceed with tariffs on Canada, Canada will respond, and everything is on the table. Working in unison with Team Canada, as Team Canada, with business leaders, organized labor, civil society, Indigenous leaders, and premiers from coast to coast to coast, we are prepared for every possible scenario. In fact, just last night, I spoke to Premier Ford in his capacity as chair of the Council of the Federation, and he reiterated his unwavering commitment on behalf of Canadian premiers to working all together. This is an important and challenging moment for Canada and for Canadians, and we know there will be many such moments. Through all of it, I want to be clear that we have Canadians' backs.
Now, let me share this with you. This is the Premier, David Eby. He's from the British of Columbia, NDP member. Take a look at what the Premier of the British Columbia has to say. Play this clip.
Premier, you were mentioning in your opening remarks encouraging people to use their purchasing power to support Canadian businesses. I'm wondering what your thoughts are on non-essential travel to the U.S. Do you think Canadians should be taking holidays in the U.S. while this is going on?
Yeah, you know, it's a strange time because we've got friends and family and loved ones over the border. The border for so many Canadians has been a marker of certainly of a different country, but not in the way that borders typically separate countries. We've got so many relationships, and it feels very strange to say, but I really do think that for Canadians right now, when you're planning your March break vacations, when you're planning your summer vacations, if the tariff threat is realized, the deliberate economic attack on families in our province, in our country, by the President of the United States, that we should really be thinking carefully about spending our money in that country. And it's a bit heartbreaking to say it, to tell you the truth, because of our relationships back and forth. I don't understand why the president is doing this. I think it's bizarre. It's not a fight we wanted. It's not a fight we signed up for. But I assure every American, and certainly and especially the president, that Canadians will fight. We will stand up and fight, and that includes making decisions about how we spend our money. And we will not spend money in a country that wants to do economic harm to Canadians. And I think that it'll be a difficult discussion and decision for many people. But I'm sure families are having those conversations because it is such an awful thing the president is trying to do.
Now, the former Prime Minister of Canada, Jean Chrétien, he's been weighing in before. He previously penned a editorial, an op-ed for his birthday, and he's basically saying over here, look, again, we are ready for this fight, and Donald, you need us. We'll make you feel far more pain than you're going to make us feel. We'll start cutting off the electricity to Trump Towers in New York. How about that? Here, play this clip.
Apparently, he said this morning that he does not need our electricity. Fine. if he wants us to cut off the electricity, he will have to walk up the Trump Tower with candles to go to his office, you know, because the state of New York rely a lot on electricity coming from Canada, mainly from Hydro-Quebec. So it's not realistic. You know, he loves to be in the news, and the news give him a lot of space. But the reality is a reality. And my view is I'm not losing sleep over that, because they will probably suffer much more than we'll do if we have that type of war.
Now, I've had the opportunity to interview Charlie Angus, member of Parliament in Canada, multiple times. Here's what he had to say to me in the most recent interview. Play this clip.
Well, Donald Trump, you're a disgrace as a human being. I'm sorry, you may have gotten the presidency, but you're a disgrace. You're a convicted felon. You're a pervert. You treat your allies with absolute disdain while you kiss up to Putin. Here's the thing. We are your best neighbor. We are your best ally. We are your number one trading partner, but we won't break, Donald, because you think your grifter politics can push us around. And we will continue to defend the international world order. We will continue to work with NATO. We will continue to work with Ukraine. So, Donald, I know this is a big diversion exercise for you to change the channels in the United States, but you're going to have to explain to the American people very quickly why you brought in so many grifters and crooks with you. The American people aren't going to put up with it, and the Canadian people, we will never put up with it. Anytime, Donald, anywhere, we will take you on.
Here's a clip from another interview I did recently with Angus. Let's play it.
Well, Donald, you've made a lot of big promises about the 4 greatest years that are coming. People are going to hold you to that. If you're going to do that, you actually need to steer the economy in a smart way. If you think that starting a trade war with your number one trading partner and throwing tariffs left, right, and center, I would suggest you get some advice on what a tariff is, because I don't actually know if you understand what it is, but American people are going to pay at the pocketbook. American people are going to pay with jobs if you start this kind of unmitigated, unfocused trade war with your number one allies, whether it's the EU, whether it's Canada, whether you start a fight with Mexico, and whether you start a fight with China. And
again, just so you can hear for yourself, I don't like playing a lot of Trump clips, you know that, but just so you can hear for yourself, here Donald Trump threatens Canada at the recent speech he gave at the World Economic Forum, his first big international speech threatening our ally, Canada. And he goes, well, we're not going to hit them hard if they become the 51st state, so it's up to you. Then Trump goes, we don't need your lumber, we have forest, we don't need your oil. By the way, we do. We're trading partners. And this is Donald Trump's really, really horrific approach. But watch this.
I think we're going to be demanding is we're going to be demanding respect from other nations. Canada, we have a tremendous deficit with Canada. We're not going to have that anymore. We can't do it. I don't know if it's good for them. As you probably know, I say you can always become a state. And if you're a state, we won't have a deficit. We won't have to tariff you, et cetera, et cetera. But Canada has been very tough to deal with over the years. And it's not fair that we should have a $200 billion or $250 billion deficit. We don't need them to make our cars, and they make a lot of them. We don't need their lumber because we have our own forests, et cetera, et cetera. We don't need their oil and gas. We have more than anybody. So, just as an example.
Again, we need to fact check Donald Trump there as well. The United States trade deficit with Canada is actually $54.99 billion in 2024. And by the way, the deficit is primarily driven by essential oil gas imports. Without energy trade, the U.S. would have a trade surplus. So Trump's claim of a $200 to $250 billion deficit is just entirely false and exaggerated.
Trump's claim of a $200 to $250 billion trade deficit with Canada, that's completely false. The real number is $54.99 billion, and it's mostly due to U.S. reliance on Canadian oil and gas. Trump's threats to impose tariffs will hit American pockets harder than Canadian ones. Higher prices for cars, gas, and food will hurt American families. So who's really losing here? Meanwhile, Trudeau is showing how a leader responds under pressure. He's rallying Team Canada, uniting business, labor groups, and Indigenous leaders. This isn't just a reaction, it's a strategic, calculated defense. Instead of creating chaos, Trudeau is creating solidarity. something Trump doesn't seem to understand.
Also, Prime Minister Trudeau says, with regarding to Donald Trump's last swipe, that we don't need him. Trudeau said, this is just more empty rhetoric from Donald Trump. We are ready to fight back. We are ready. And then Prime Minister Trudeau posted a photo of business leaders saying, these leaders in industry, policy, and labor know that our free trade deal with the United States is a win-win. They're fighting with us to protect it for workers and businesses on both sides of the border. So one of the things Trudeau and other leaders in Canada are doing, bring the business community together and say that Trump sanctioning or imposing these tariffs on Canada is going to have a massive, devastating impact on labor, on business, on management. Everyone's going to be harmed by it. This article from CNN. Here's what's going to get more expensive immediately from the 25% tariffs that Donald Trump is threatening. It should be noted that Mexico and Canada are two of America's top trading partners. They account for 30% of the value of all of the goods the U.S. imported last year, according to federal trade data. And he goes on to say, just take a look. Cars and car parts will go up. The U.S. imported $87 billion worth of motor vehicles and $64 billion worth of vehicle parts from Mexico last year, not accounting for December. Motor vehicles were also the second largest good the U.S. imported from Canada last year for a total of $34 billion. So the car industry is going to be crushed, even though, again, the automobile industry, is based in Detroit. The parts come from all over. Also, gas. The U.S. imported $97 billion worth of oil and gas from Canada last year, that country's top export to the U.S., and the U.S. has become more reliant on Canadian oil since the expansion of Canada's Trans Mountain Pipeline. And again, you're going to see the price of gas go up there as well. Food and alcoholic beverages. U.S. imported $46 billion of agricultural products from Mexico. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, that includes $8.3 billion worth of fresh vegetables, $5.9 billion of beer, and $5 billion of distilled spirits. So those prices will go up fairly quickly as well. You add on top of that Trump's mass deportations, and you see that this is going to be devastating for our economy. One of the things that Donald Trump's executive orders have required amongst the government agencies is a blackout, not to communicate any information to the public, not to publish any statistics publicly, so that Donald Trump can try to control all of the data that makes its way to the media, likely so he can do false data and report incorrect facts as he's devastating our economy. We're not going to let that happen here. We're going to keep you posted every step of the way, but I wanted to let you know what's going on.
And there you have it. Canada standing firm while Trump flounders with his typical mix of bluster and bad math. This isn't just a trade war, it's a battle of leadership. On one side, you have got Trudeau rallying Canadians, unifying business leaders, workers, and provinces to show a united front. On the other side, Trump is throwing out empty threats and inflated numbers, all while undermining the very allies the US relies on. Let's be real. This isn't about defending America or patriotism. It's about incompetence. Trump's attempt to pressure Canada only exposes his lack of strategy and inability to handle complex international relationships. Canada is clear on the message. We won't be bullied. So what happens next? The world is watching closely, and this showdown will set the tone for how the US treats its allies going forward. But one thing's for sure, Canada is ready to fight, and Trump's theatrics are no match for solid diplomacy and a united front. And that's the breakdown of this escalating showdown between Trump and Canada. But here's the question. What do you think? Are Trump's threats just empty rhetoric? Or could this trade war spiral into something much bigger? Let us know in the comments. One thing is crystal clear. This isn't just about trade, it's about leadership, strategy, and the way nations handle disagreements. Trudeau and Canadian leaders are stepping up, while Trump's chaotic approach continues to alienate allies. If you've been following Trump's foreign policies or Canada's response closely, you know this isn't an isolated event. The consequences of this trade standoff could hit everyday Americans with higher prices on food, gas, and cars. And it's important for everyone to understand what's at stake. Before you go, Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Politics Uncut for more in-depth breakdown on global politics. Hit the notification bell so you never miss out on breaking stories like this one. Together, we can keep holding leaders accountable and staying informed. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.